Ladies and gentlemen, I just saw an article that says that if you want to live the Singapore dream, you need $4.4 million. And I think that's crazy and insane. Let's take a look at the details and let's come to a surprising conclusion. And let me give you also my word of advice on this. Let's watch on, shall we? So my title is Siao lah, $4.4 million for Singapore Dream. Cannot be lah. This came from an article by Dollars and Cents. Dollars and Cents, I know the founders very well. In fact, I just have a lunch with the founders, and it surprised me for them to come out with such an article. In fact, the article is written by one of the founders, Dinesh. It's a great man. And the article says, how much does it cost to live the Singapore dream? And when I look in the details, it's just scare the living daylights out of me. So this is extracted from the article itself, and I didn't get their permission, so I hope they'll forgive me. More importantly, I will pin the link of the article in my video, and everybody should watch this because it will send you a shocker. And more importantly, my conclusions will be in the later part of this video. Living the Singapore dream will cost you 4.4 million Singapore dollars. So to live the Singapore dream, we need about $4.4 million. Some of these expenses in the list above, which I'll run through with you, such as owning a condominium or owning a car, may be divided between two individuals, the couple, to further lower the stickier price for individual. But let's watch and see what is the makeup of this $4.4 million, shall we? Now, someone will say, wow, to live in Singapore, how come you need $4.4 million, that kind of thing, right? No. The emphasis on living a good life, a Singapore dream, right? A Singapore dream consists of having a condo, a car, club membership, some of these things, right? So it's not about how to stay alive, not about subsistence level in Singapore, but living a good Singapore dream. And let's take a look at the cost breakdown, shall we? First of all, one of the big expense of an individual is the wedding cost. And I think I happened to cover this in the previous video, where it surprised me that now a dream wedding costs about $60,000 to $80,000. And remember, this number is a very typical wedding right now. If you exclude the subsidy from the ang pao that you get, the wedding can actually cost about $55,000 to about $80,000. So let's come out average around $60,000. Now, ang pao can probably save you another $10,000 to $20,000. So it depends, right? But a dream wedding, right? Not a frugal wedding, dream wedding will set you back by about 60,000 on average. So when Dollars and Cents came out this number, and it just coincided with my earlier discovery, it's not a number that's wrong. Okay, it's not a number that's wrong. It's ballpark around there. If you are a bit more frugal, you can save some money here and there. But ballpark is around there, okay? Yeah, let's see where some areas they probably overestimate and maybe some areas they underestimate. So second is vacation costs. And they actually factor in a vacation of $5,000 per year per person. And I think they factor mainly one trip. So is this a lot, right? I would say right now, no, I travel almost every month, right? And in fact, right now I'm in freezing Europe. And I don't travel for holidays, I travel for work, but I'm very in touch with all the overseas expenses of many places. I'll just say this right nowadays, 2-week holiday per year, $5,000 per person, very reasonable, right? The air ticket itself costs you 1,000 plus, sometimes even close to 2,000, depending whether you fly, what kind of flight, how far you go, and things like that. And whether you stay in 1-2 star hotel, I mean, look at the Airbnb I'm staying in, right? It's a pretty basic Airbnb. It's really very expensive, And I would say that $5,000 per year per trip, reasonable. In the past, my time, Australia and Korea are very exotic places, right? Japan is very, untouchable. It's very expensive. I think my first Europe trip is when I was late 30s. And my first US trip was also late 30s. Nowadays, kids go for these kind of places at a very young age, so the expectation is a lot higher. And I would like to challenge the article. I think they're factoring one holiday per trip. I think nowadays, most people take 2 holidays per trip, maybe one big one small, medium one. And I see a lot of Singaporeans during the 1-week holiday in Europe, because I spend most of my time in Europe. So I would say that the vacation cost on this one is quite reasonable. The third thing is there is a huge aspiration of every Singaporeans to own a condo and above. I would say I was initially skeptical, but over the last few weekends, I saw the incredible, insane amount of people that went into new condo launches, wiping out the condos like as if they are selling bubble tea and things like that. And I just wonder where did all the Singaporeans get all the money from, man? And they factor in a condominium price of $1.7 million. I would just say this that at $1.7 million, you probably can buy some small condo or old condo, outskirt area, or you buy a HDB, right? $2 million seems more like the average right now. 1.7 million, not so exciting, right? So let's give a few examples. Norwood Grand at Woodlands, not even like Orchard Road. The units were priced at $998,000 for one bedder plus one study. You can't have a family for that. 1.2 million for two bedder, 624 square feet. Cannot, I think my living room is already that size, right? Okay. And $1.7 million for three bedder deluxe, 883 square feet. If you want a four bedder, which is 1,173 square feet, is $2.24 million. My HDB, I don't know how big is my HDB. My guess is probably around 1,600 square feet. It's huge and spacious. I got three toilets and four rooms in the house. For me to now move into something that has only 1,100 square feet is a suffering. But my point is that will set you back $2.2 million. And a lot of Singaporeans are willing to take that plunge in exchange for a prestige or investment sense of a condo, right? So how much is 1.7 million going to bring you? A 5-room HDB flat in Margaret Drive is now $1.7 million. My point is that I think the article highly underestimated the price of a condominium. And there are a lot of people with bigger family wishes and, more importantly, even a landed property dream. Having the Singapore dream of living luxuriously, prestigiously in a condo or landed property, this number is a high underestimate. The cost of raising kids. Now, I've raised 3 kids already. They're all in university right now. One is going to working life. The cost of raising 2 kids, because it's kind of a typical family, $400,000 until they turn 18. This cost does not include tuition fee, enrichment fee, overseas holidays, medical fees. This is just childcare, clothes, food allowance, etc. And when I eyeball the detail, okay, pregnancy-related costs, somewhere around there, baby to toddler, pretty reasonable if you factor in, medical and sort of things, maybe even talk about maids and things like that, kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, whatsoever, total cost $200,000. I would just say this, I think in Singapore it's almost impossible to live without tuition. Almost impossible. I didn't have a lot of tuition when I was young, but when my kids started their school and secondary school and JC, it's very difficult to do without tuition. Let me give you a very funny story, right? So I believe that come to JC, the kids don't need tuition anymore. So I didn't give the kids tuition. And my eldest daughter really floundered her A-levels studies. The prelims was terrible. And we then have to throw in huge vitamin M for money, right? To give her a huge amount of tuition. And I tell you, I cannot believe how much it costs for JC, right? $120 per hour. And that's, I think, a very typical case. And you cannot imagine for the last 3 months of A-levels how much money we spend on it. It's just some frightening number. So fortunately, my 2 younger ones at JC didn't need that much tuition. But I can assure you that tuition is unfortunately quite difficult to avoid right now. So I would just say $200,000 is an underestimation, right? I haven't even talked about some of their stuff like, they now have to own an iPhone or even a prestigious, important Android phone and things like that. Don't underestimate how much it costs children right now. All of them need a computer right now. All of them potentially need an iPad or something like that. So the world is quite different right now. The kids are quite demanding. Finally, for the kids, the Children's Local University, in the article, they found that the estimated tuition fee for undergraduate course can be between 35,000 to 170,000 to study medicine. So at a minimum, they set aside $25,000 for our children university education. So times 2, 50,000. I don't know what cost gives you $25,000 now. There must be, but I don't know. So I just signed off my son's tuition fee. It's $4,000 to study mathematics. There's no laboratory. There's no something special, just mathematics. It costs me $4,000 per semester. So which means it's about $8,000 per year, and times 4 years, 30 over 1,000. So 25,000 is on the low side. I don't know what you study in 25,000, right? Literature. I don't know. I don't know what you study, right? Something really simple. So in a nutshell, I think that is really very costly. Okay. And I think most of the university courses right now are 4 years, right? And I think there are 3 years courses in NTU, but I think that this is on the very, very low estimate. So again, dollar and cents underestimated this cost, in my opinion. Six is owning a car. So they estimated that, yes, if you want to own a car for 30 years, that's $750,000 for 30 years. So I think they are rotating 3 rounds, right? So somewhere around maybe 30 years old, you have a car for 10 years, then 10 years and 10 years, something like that. Each car, for example, a Toyota Altis will set you back by $250,000. So you own for 3 rounds. And after 60 years old, probably you don't need a car anymore, that kind of thinking. So again, this is a very typical Singapore dream. Most Singaporeans will want to own a car. I also have a car. I don't aspire to have a prestigious car, luxurious car. I own a Honda Visa, some simple car. And that car is right now, I think, I don't know, $170,000 or something like some ridiculous amount. So 250,000 for 30 years, include road tax, insurance, all this. Yeah, this is about right. I would say that dollar and cents underestimated this, because most of the people, if you want to live the Singapore dream, would like to own the car at least between 60 to 70 years old. In your retirement, you like to have a car also. So I would say this is on the low estimate. And of course, one could say that nowadays you can take Grab and things like that, right? It's true. And you can take public transport. You may not know, but when I'm overseas, I always take public transport. I take buses, trains, everywhere. I rarely rent a car or even own a car. But in Singapore, I do have a car. It's shared between ourselves and our children, highly underutilized. But it's difficult not to own a car in the Singapore dream. So this is a reasonable, to some extent, slightly underestimation on the car ownership. 7, country club. Now, this is one I seriously think is a total waste of money for a lot of people, okay? And most Singaporeans got no time for country club. Don't BS yourself. And I don't even think that this is a aspiration anymore. So I just have a lunch with a good friend in Singapore Island Country Club. It's a posh place, man. It's a super posh place. But mostly for people who golf, I would say. And I think I don't know what, apart from those golfers, the country membership gives you a place for meeting. Then you can have it in Starbucks. I never need to go to a country club for meetings. Country club give you a place to swim. Some of the public swimming pools are wonderful. Country membership club give you place to have nice lunches. I think there's a lot of nice lunches. I don't even think this is necessary. So I think this is a overestimate for Singapore dream. I think we should strike country club out of the Singapore dream. I don't think most Singaporeans want to aspire to have this. I don't know about you guys. I don't. I never had one. Last is retirement cost. The cost of retirement is estimated to be $1 million by dollars and cents. It assumed is $4,000 per month per person for 20 years. And if you live longer, like Mr. Lu, he wants to live 100 years old, then you need more. So the cost of retirement, you need $1 million. Now, I would just say this, $1 million, I think it's a reasonable estimate. There are ways to work around it by, remember I taught you guys, try to fill up your ERS for your retirement account to full. Then every month at 70 years old, you start drawing about $4,000. So this will hedge it. But it doesn't take away from the fact that, yes, you need about $1 million for retirement. And at the way Singapore longevity is right now, we live longer and longer and longer. $1 million may be an underestimate, right? So I would think you may need slightly more than $1 million. So this is most likely a underestimate, because this is something that Singaporeans will tend to live longer and longer and longer. So I will give ballpark about right for this one. I started off looking at the superficial number of $4.4 million, thinking it's a real overestimate. But when I look at the details that they provide, oh my, it's really that expensive, So what the article wrote is true. You need at least $4.4 million if you want to live the Singapore dream, okay? It is really that expensive. if there's anything, I would say that they are very conservative in some of the estimates, you know. So it is true that in your lifetime expense, you need that big, huge amount of money. Then a lot of people say, die lah, Mr. Lu, how? You know, how are we going to have that kind of money? You know, I work one whole life also to have that kind of money. Let me give you a little bit of tips here and there. So I will just say this. I don't pursue the typical Singapore dream. So this is Mr. Lu talking about himself. I'm not here to judge whether you should live, how you should live your life. I'm telling you how I live my life, and I live my life wonderfully. I don't have a condo in Singapore, and HDB is serving me well and very well. It's money's worth. My HDB with a maisonette is huge. It's got 4 bedrooms and 3 toilets. It's serving me extremely well. And if I sell it, I can't even buy a pigeon house, a pigeon condo in Singapore. Okay. So I don't see why I need the prestige and facilities of a condo. And this is going to be very controversial. And I certainly don't need the appreciation power of condominium. I think most of you are convinced by now that I do very well in my stock market and probably a lot better in my stock market. So I don't need to invest in condo in order to make my retirement money. You know, the most ridiculous thing is to buy a condo, stay in a cramped place, whatever reason maybe. Then at retirement, sell a condo, move to HDB. That's ridiculous, man. I want to suffer young to enjoy my later life and not to enjoy my earlier life and then to suffer old, right? That's my view. Okay, that's for me. So before you all start saying, Mr. Lu, piece of shit, you are talking about all this nonsense. I'm saying it's for myself, my perspective. As I said, the second point, country membership will be a total waste of money on me. I exercise a lot, don't get me wrong. Every day, I cover 10 kilometers. Very few Singaporeans do that kind of distance every day. I exercise a lot, but I don't need, I do my push-ups, I do my leg raises, I cover my distance. I can do that in open. The cost of my sports is big fat zero, okay? I don't need a membership for it. I don't swim. If I want to eat, I go to nice places and without the membership. So membership will be a total waste of money for me. I don't need to show off and tell people I'm successful by having membership. Apart from these two, okay, I would just say that I look at the detail. I think as a Singaporean, I can't escape bulk of the other expenses that dollar and cents written. But I give a little tip. I was very frugal when I was younger. Now, as I get older and richer, I'm a lot more liberal with my expenses, okay? But that's how I lived my dream when I was young. But let's watch on and see what other points I want to give. So my advice to everybody is this, that when you are young, be frugal and save a lot of money and invest well. So when you're young, forget about the Singapore dream. It is okay, right? Nobody's going to laugh at you. A lot of people want to live a life to please other people that don't give a shit about you. I just give a categorically blank statement. You should be frugal when you're young so that you can be luxurious when you're old. Let the power of compounding work in your favor when you're young. So when you invest young, the power of compounding powerfully grow to some amazing number. I've demonstrated to you our CPF number. A lot of people have outdone me right now when they are compounding. Day by day, every week, I get someone to tell me, Mr. Lu, I've achieved 1M35, 1M40, 1M3 something nowadays. Amazingly, because they started compounding when they're young. And when you're old, the snowball becomes so big that when you keep taking some money off, you got lots of luxury in your life. That's where you want to enjoy all the Singapore dream. Go ahead. The timing of the expense is the one that matters. When you incur that $4.4 million matters. If you front load all those expenses, then your later part of life will be very difficult. But if you backload all those expenses in your first part of life, you invest really well and let the snowball grow and grow and grow a big number, that part will make you very, very luxurious in your later life. And the Singapore dream, very, very easily livable. And I also suggest this to many people, and some people have view against this, but again, this is how I live my life. I choose to stretch my dollar by going to Malaysia and enjoy some of this luxury. For me to go from my house to my Malaysia JB house takes me 35 minutes. For me to go from Jurong to Pasir Ris takes me about 35 minutes as well. So it's okay, okay? And there I can live luxuriously, huge house, wonderful food, never need to think as good about how I spend my money, okay? secure location, everything. And some of you might even be more creative. For your wedding, consider picking some of the items from Malaysia, like for some of the gowns, the photo shoots, some of the stuff, you can have it done in Malaysia so that things become cheaper. So I'm just suggesting how I would stretch my dollar so that the $4.4 million doesn't need to be that big. All said and done, Singapore is a very expensive place, and it is very humbling to the realization that Singapore is really, really, really very expensive. I would suggest considering some of the points I've said: front loading frugality, back loading your expenses, invest well, save well when you're young, okay? Live luxury when you're older. Let's have some discussion in a comment in YouTube. And remember, hit like, subscribe, and also join us our Telegram channel when we have more fruitful discussion. I'll see you in a day or two. Bye-bye.